Next to Newgrange is another ancient monument called Site Z. Site Z was discovered by Professor O'Kelly during excavations between 1962 and 1975. Here is what Dr. Kelly had to say about Site Z. Site Z, on the other hand, was smashed up with the utmost ferocity. Every orthostat of the curb and the passage and chamber of the enclosed tomb that could be broken was smashed into small fragments, each a few centimeters across, and these were then thrown back into the sockets from which the orthostats had been pulled. Those which could not easily be broken were overthrown and buried adjacent to their original positions. All the damage was done to facilitate cultivation of the area. All that is left of Site Z now is the cement markings where the stones used to be, but this was enough for me to create a 3D model of the area, which allowed me to try and rebuild what Z would have looked like and to see if it had any orientation to the sun. I first started by adding the stones to the ring around Z, then the passageway stones, the roof, and I added a roof box. I'll go into detail in that a little bit later. Then I added the cairn material. And here's what Z may have looked like 5,000 years ago. By simulating the location of the sun, I was able to calculate that the sun would have shone into Z at 10:20 a.m. on December 21st, the winter solstice. You can see two beams of light here. The one on the ground is from the sunlight coming through the doorway, and you can see the light coming through the roof box at the back of the passage. Because the sun was actually higher in the sky 5,000 years ago, the angle of the sun would not allow the sun to reach the back of the passage through the doorway, and so I added a roof box. Even today, with the sun being lower in the sky, a roof box is still needed in order for the sun to reach the back of the passage. Here I'm showing the position of the sun as it is at 20 past 10. And this is a position I found where the sun shines through the doorway directly at Z. And this cross here actually marks where the sun was 5,000 years ago. It was actually higher in the sky. So that made me think that if the sun was higher, it would have needed a roof box for the light to go right to the end of the passage. From that angle, it only gets to almost to the end. I'll show you what I mean. I'll bring the year back 5,000 years to when Newgrange was built. And you can see here where the sun is, it's moved up. Well, the sun hasn't moved up, the earth has shifted it in that time. The positions of the stars at night 5,000 years ago were different than today, and I found there's actually an alignment to the Orion Nebula 5,000 years ago that isn't there now. So if you look at the sun at the X here, this is the area where the roof box points to from Z and the passageway, and you can see as Orion rises during the night, that's the belt, and this is the Orion Nebula, that it passes directly in front of that area. So if you were to sit in Z, it would line up directly with the Orion Nebula 5,000 years ago. The interesting thing is that this would also be an alignment for Newgrange for 5,000 years ago, because where Orion rises is the same place where the sun rises for the morning alignment where the sun light shines through the passage of Newgrange. So you can see that there where the sun is rising. Here is an animation of the sun shining through Site Z at 10:20 a.m. on December 21st, 5,000 years ago. And here a view from inside Z looking out, and here the sun passing through the roof box. Next is a fly-through coming from the doorway to the back of Z. On December 21st, the winter solstice, There is a sunrise alignment at Newgrange and also a sunset alignment at Douth. There may have been a third alignment that day at Site Z at 10:20 a.m.